The information shared on Light Body Radio is for educational and informational purposes only. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed healthcare provider, or qualified wellness practitioner with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or health goal. Dr. Lara may, her guests, and affiliates do not claim to cure, prevent, or treat any condition and are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information shared in this podcast. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that any actions you take based on the content are at your own discretion and risk. Thank you for tuning in to Light Body Radio.
Welcome to Light Body Radio, where science meets soul and healing gets multidimensional. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, functional medicine pharmacist, master intuitive Reiki channel, and certified life and health coach. Here we decode root causes, transmute stuck energy, and empower your full spectrum healing journey, body, mind, and light body. This isn't just wellness, it's awakening, grounded in science, guided by spirit, and designed for your evolution. Let's rise and radiate. Welcome to the next level of you. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Lara May, and today we have with us Mark Burnett. He is the founder of My Brain Restore and a patient who has personally defied the expectations of both Parkinson's and early Alzheimer's. Diagnosed with Parkinson's at stage 3, Mark faced severe tremors, imbalance, repeated falls, and early cognitive decline. Refusing to accept a downward trajectory, which I'm so grateful for, he began researching neuroprotection, glial cell health, and glymphatic system function, including emerging findings from a leading university in Japan. His journey led him to formulate My Brain Restore, the nutraceutical he now credits for his measurable neurological improvements. And after months of daily use, Mark's neurologist classified him from stage 3 to stage 1, reflecting meaningful functional recovery. His beta amyloid 42/40 ratio also improved by 10%, a change most clinicians say does not occur. And so he's here with us today to share his stories, I think to share some hope and also to share, some cutting edge information. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So tell us again, the bio I read goes a little bit into your story, but give us some more detail and context and tell us about this evolution for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't know exactly what was going on with myself, and a lot of people obviously don't when these kind of things happen. But after getting Parkinson's and then doing some research and then having one aha moment, realizing my father was stationed in Camp Lejeune, and I was born in Camp Lejeune. When doing some research, I found out that the base had 70% higher rate of Parkinson's than any other base in the United States.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, and this was caused by TCE, a chemical that was actually gotten into the water system. So when I was born, my first baby bottle was filled with TCE. So it set everything in place. Essentially, what happened, is the fact that I was in this sort of turmoil situation. I knew I was tripping and falling. This is sort of during COVID. I didn't really want to go to the doctor at that time. I hadn't gotten COVID. Didn't want to sit in the doctor's office and obtain it.
Right.
So I really worked to try to solve, and make it through that, but eventually got diagnosed, with that. I took some of the more advanced tests, the SYN-1 test, which is extremely advanced, where they do a biopsy and you can actually see the face of your Parkinson's, and just see what it looks like. And I put that on my website, mybrainrestore.com, under my journey. I post all my medical information. I don't hide. I have no reason to hide. I'm very right about all these type of things that I think they're important that people read and see. So at the same time, on 23andMe, I got a report back that I have the gene for Alzheimer's. And it sort of explained why I was having trouble at the same time remembering things. It's a weird event when you fall down with Parkinson's, but can't remember why you fell down because you have Alzheimer's.
Yeah. And that's the AOE?
The 4.
Okay.
4 version, which is like the worst one.
Okay. Yeah.
But doing that and basically being told, here's some medicine from the 60s. Is there any hope, that's going to help me get better? No. And a matter of fact, doctor said something, and I thought it was interesting, and neurologists called it a honeymoon effect. And the honeymoon effect basically is that this L-Dopa will last for about 5 years, and then I'm probably going to have to increase the dosage, and then later it's going to cause you to freeze, and eventually you're in trouble. More trouble than you already are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this cannot be so. I'm not the kind of person who sits still and sits back and says, this is the way life's going to be. I've always been someone who's a database programmer in the past. That's what I did. I studied to be a veterinarian when I was younger, switched to computers. So I had this biological, mindset of a blank screen in front of me. How do you design something? And so I took that and I did all the research I could. And I found this Japanese study where they cured from a natural product, essentially all the mice from, I should say essentially, absolutely, all the mice from Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and dementia. And when I read that, it was like, wait a minute, how does one thing that's natural cure 3 neurological diseases that are the worst diseases in the world that everybody wants to get rid of and every caretaker that takes care of people wants help with? And to me, it was not only emotional, but okay, how do I get this? And let me read the report more. They were trying to make a $10,000 a month drug. They failed. Of course. Yeah, exactly. They failed at it miserably. They couldn't take apart nature. I understood it. Nature had locked itself up into a certain way, but it had also, even though this particular cultivator had been around before, basically in Chinese medicine, they had always made it into a hot tea or they cooked it. And what they found out immediately is if you do that, you destroy the neurological effect. It has to be taken in its natural form. And then when it's milled, it has to be milled at a very cold temperature. So I took that and used a little bit of USA technology here in my head and came out with ultra chill mill, where we actually chill that mill down below 50 degrees. And we mill at 28,000 revolutions per minute. So it can heat a seat very quickly. So all about that was in January when I started on my venture here on my own, just taking it myself. Is this going to work? I'm being selfish. I'm sorry. I didn't share it with anybody. I had to know it worked first.
Right. So, sometimes I'm going to interrupt you. Sometimes N of the power of 1 it can be just as powerful as, an N of 10,000 or 30,000 in a study.
Exactly. No. And it's one of those things that when I started taking it, I didn't notice I was getting better at first. I literally didn't make a log like I tell everyone else now to do. Make a log every month, check it. Because I just didn't trip into things. I didn't make mistakes. I wasn't doing pill rolling, which is an effect with Parkinson's where you'll pick up something and you'll roll your hand and it comes right out of your hand. Very hard to pick up pennies or screws, things like that. All of a sudden, I was doing that. Just subconsciously, I didn't register it. So then one day, I just said, wow, I haven't fallen down in a month. I haven't banged into anything. And I'm taking my product every day. So in 6 months' time, keeping in mind my wife knows all the problems I've had, I signed up for the Michael J. Fox Marathon. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, you don't normally do that at stage 3. You try to run your own marathon. You let your family do it for you.
I mean, most people without Parkinson's don't just sign up for a random marathon.
No, not at all. No. And I'm like, I think I can do this. My wife was like, you're crazy. You're going to fall down. You're going to break your neck. I'll make sure I bring Band-Aids. And I said, no, I'm going to go out. And I had been wearing actually steel-plated shoes, being worker construction shoes, because I hurt myself so often. And I learned that the extra weight in the shoes would help you lift your feet more because it would feel the resistance in a millisecond and allow you to raise your foot up a little more. And because they weigh 1.5 pounds a piece. And I went out and bought some tennis shoes. And June 1st in Washington, D.C., I ran the Michael J. Fox Marathon and got a medal at the end.
Nice.
I knew then, and the people around me that were Parkinson's people with like level 1 said, what in the world are you taking? And I said, well, I'm taking this. And they said, well, how do I get it? I'm like, I'm not selling it yet. I haven't brought it out, but I'll get you some. And then I realized, the entrepreneurship came out in me at 67 years old. It's kind of an older age to have that happen. But, when you have something in front of you that's that powerful and works, I needed to get it to other people. And since that time, those early people that have gotten into it have had Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or dementia, and they've all started to get better. In different ways. Everyone, has different response to this, but it has literally no side effects except some flatulence because it's a seed. And if you grind it, it's going to create like metamucil effect, if you will. But other than that, it doesn't have any other side effect other than you get better. And now I've taken it 1 year. The Michael J. Fox group has just reached out to me to join in their new trial for detection of Parkinson's, and I told them what I'm taking. So they're extremely excited about, hey, we'd like to see how that works in our test results, because I know mine have gotten better, but they haven't seen it. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll be up there in a 18-month trial for new testing, which basically is the CIS-1 test. Okay, it's the one I already took, but
yeah. Okay, so that's amazing, and congratulations, I guess, is in order. But
yeah, thank you.
But so can this help anyone at any stage of these diseases?
Yes, and that's a good way to put it, because even in the test they did on the mice, they thought it should be a preventive. And the reason they thought it should be a preventive was that they gave it to all the mice with these diseases, but then they turned around and gave it to the mice that were normal. And they noticed that they improved by 20% memory to run mazes and do what's called the water maze, where they put them in water and they have to find a ladder as fast as they can and get out. That's the thing. Well, they could do it 20% better, and they didn't even have any of these diseases. So we did come out with a preventive version. We do have people that are predisposed to get Alzheimer's. They know this from their doctor, or they know Parkinson's runs in the family, or dementia, things of this order. So they're buying it to try to hedge off what could be coming down the road. And we sell 2X active, which is what I take. And I just learned the dose that 2 times was the right dose. It's the same product. There's nothing different. There's no, magic other than the magic in it. It's 99% pure, the main ingredient, and the other ingredient is a seaweed, a kava style seaweed, which you may be familiar with, but that helps cut down on inflammation. They didn't use that in the mice experiments, but it's not a bad idea to have that work. And they dissected the mice. I didn't sign up for that one. So I took the yeah, exactly. I took the beta amyloid 42/40 test because that detects Alzheimer's, although NIH is leaning it could also show dementia. So I took that, and I had taken it before, and I improved it by 10%. And before I took it, my doctor told me they didn't even want to give it to me. They wouldn't even do it. I had to call 10 other doctors to get. Finally, a doctor said, "Yeah, I'll do it for you." What the heck? But the important part about that was that the Google, when I Googled it, said no one in the world has ever reversed that test. It doesn't happen. So when the score came back and I was 10% better in my ratio in my blood of those amyloid plaques, it was perfect. It was pointing right to what they dissected the mice and noticed all those tendrils and all these other components, amyloid plaques were gone. Well, where did they go? And the blood work showed where they went, where they're supposed to go, and then they're just broken down by the liver from that standpoint. So I put the pieces together. They didn't. I put that together. And that system was only found out about in Norway in 2012. That glymphatic system is extremely newly discovered, but old world. It's been there forever. And no one paid attention to it. So an amazing amount of discoveries and things and linking the pieces together.
Yeah, it is amazing from my perspective too, as both a clinician that's trained in Western medicine and now practices functional medicine, that we really haven't had any new Western medicine pharmaceutical approaches, like you said, since the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a few, but they're not very effective. And even the ones we have, you sort of already went over it. It's almost like a very temporary bump stop. It's not even even arresting the process or the progression.
Right.
And that's true for both diseases. And I think it's interesting too that people with Parkinson's will develop a type of dementia, but it's not necessarily Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is specifically different.
Right.
But being that they're both neurological dysfunction coming out of inflammation, I think is also very interesting. And then I also just want to say, like, any of you out there carrying the APOE, APOE4, that does not mean that you will definitely get it. It just means that you're at higher risk, even if you're homozygous, double homozygous, positive. So please, I think that is a good cue for you to be hyper aware and hyper proactive in your prevention. But I don't think it's necessarily a predeterministic thing. I'm very much a believer and a proponent of epigenetics, meaning the environment can turn on or turn off a gene. Sure. And so that's also, I think, what's illustrated in this product too, is that it's doing something to turn off that inflammation and to allow your body to heal and to clear all of the junk that builds up that forms those amyloid plaques. And that's what I really want to dive into a little bit, if you can, a little bit more, to give people a little bit more information about this, what we're calling the glymphatic system, what it is and how it works. I'm sure it combines several systems of the body to really, work its magic. But can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I can a little. Again, let's keep in mind, we're talking about something only discovered in 2012 and sort of rediscovered in May of 2025 in a different animal. So there's been a lot of scientific, wow, this is interesting, and a lot of big pharma interested in it for their obvious reasons, okay? But the fact that it's new has really thrown off, I think, a lot of people about, like, well, what do we do with this, And we know we have the lymphatic system in our body, which also, that's the mumps when you get sick, right? That's part of that lymphatic system, trying to get rid of, and this is a good analogy, trying to get rid of something that you have as a cold or something like that. It swells up, you get the mumps, and this is how it works, and it works its way down into the body. And, this seems to be the same type of system, but it's been hidden and not discovered until recently. But what it seems to do is the same thing. But once it gets swelled, and I'm using that term loosely, once it gets clogged like a drain, and essentially the system goes into effect usually at night when people sleep. This is when the system turns on, it starts cleaning itself. It's a lot of maintenance things the body does at night, and it doesn't work. It simply does not function. So the goal of big drug companies have been trying to jump in here and try to figure out, well, how do we fix these things? How do we deal with it? But we already have a product. It's already there. The Japanese have, proved that that's what, in the sense of working, that was what was going on. So, I just took that and went with it. I don't know why anyone else didn't get involved in it. Obviously, I followed all my intellectual property rules and all that kind of stuff now, realizing that, I have to keep going to support everybody, so that's the most important thing. So.
Oh, I think the important thing to point out here too is that the lymphatic system is an important aspect of the immune system. And we don't oftentimes, especially, in Western medicine, we like to compartmentalize and sort of divvy everything up in its own individual little section, but it all works in concert. And so the reason our lymph nodes swell is because they're inflamed when they're being attacked. And so it goes to work, help to clear out of our body those things that are not necessarily supposed to be there. And then, like you said, it travels through the blood. It goes also through the blood system, through the liver, through all of our excretory systems, and out of the body, but also out of the skin.
Right.
And so that's why things like skin brushing or even just sweating can be so powerful and helpful to help clear out all of those things. And so I love the fact that we're still discovering things about the human body, even I mean, for millions of years, we've had humans on this planet, and but we're still uncovering new things that we like understanding. So I love that, and I think it's exciting, and I also think it lends hope again to this mantra that we've been told, and we're still told. Once you develop something like this, it's all downhill. There's, you can maybe slow it down, but you can't arrest it. It's this. They try to convince us it's a predetermined progression. And so I am here to talk to people like you to reverse that, that train of thought and just teaching people that in general. I think it's so disempowering. And so let's see, where do I
I'll pick up on something you said, and it was interesting. You were talking about the smell and things like that. And you may not be necessarily aware, because it was kind of an interesting thing I found. And in the UK, they had a great story about a nurse who, when she was younger, she could smell people differently. And she said, she told her grandmother, she goes, I don't like the smell of those people. She goes, don't tell anyone, never tell that to anyone, be quiet. You and I can smell things other people can't. So she had this hypersensitivity to smell. And she noticed her husband smelled nice to her. And she said, half the reason I married him because he smelled good, because I had this really smell technique, or not technique, just this ability, beyond everyone else, And then she said he started to smell different. And I realized I had smelt this because she was a nurse in patients before. Those patients had Parkinson's. And she actually detected his Parkinson's before he was diagnosed with Parkinson's ahead of time, and started telling people. And bingo, her husband got diagnosed with Parkinson's within, I think, a year after she first smelled it. She went to doctors to do clinical trials and say, look, this is it. They all said she was crazy. They looked at her around the room, and she said, she goes, I should have listened to my grandmother, because now I'm looking really bad in front of all these people. But we were with one doctor, one scientist. He said, let's put you to the test. And so what he did, he went and got people to wear shirts for a couple of days and put them in a bag and seal them that had Parkinson's. Then he took people who didn't have Parkinson's at all, and he brought them to her. And he said, and I don't remember the number, I think it was 6 and 6. It was an even number. And she got everyone right except one. She could smell on those shirts the Parkinson's. And the one person, she said, that has Parkinson's. She goes, no, I'm sorry, he doesn't have Parkinson's. Okay. 5 months later, the doctor came back to her and said, that guy got clinically tested for Parkinson's. So he did have it. You nailed it. So now they have moved on in her research, not her research, but research, so that essentially, I'm not going to think the right tool, but it can smell, a machine can smell, and and she would just say, yes, now I smell it, and teach the machine. So she has taught a machine how to do it In the UK, anyway, they're trying to come up with a swab that you can put on your neck or get earwax, and bingo, it shows it. So they know it's there. You're right. You hit it on the nail on the head. That sometimes just these sense, but it takes a certain person to do that. And that's why I feel I'm sort of in her shoes, so to speak. I'm the certain person who said, wait a minute, wasn't that the aha moment when the mice got better?
Yeah. Yeah. And the willingness to try something that's outside of the box too.
Right.
And I love that story too, because I think it also reflects just how the microbiome of our whole body is different when the inflammation gets to the point to where we can finally be quote unquote clinically tested and diagnosed with something. But it's obviously been developing for a while. And so I think also too, that would be a great avenue of research, is figuring out, okay, what is the makeup of that microbiome, or, that allows this process again to go unchecked.
And I have contacted all of those involved in the research, except a woman, the nurse, she's retired. I did get one scientist to sort of pull me back, call me back or talk to me. But unfortunately, there's a lot of, hey, guys, I think I cured myself. Let's do the smell test on me. Did the smell go away? If it did, it further shows, and it also gives you guys a giant question mark. Like, how did it go away? But unfortunately, trying to get them to pay attention is a constant battle. And I would break past that, and I would, if someone wants to come smell my neck.
Smell my neck.
They're more than welcome. Otherwise, I'll just send them a shirt.
But it also makes me wonder too: is there a threshold? There has to be a threshold.
Yeah.
So that leads you to like concentration, down that like, okay, so there is, so there might be, a lower versus a higher concentration, and maybe you could track it even with that. And so you could, because this is where I want to take the conversation, is how do you encourage patients to track themselves? Like, what are tools that you've used? What are tools that you encourage people to use? Let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, there's a couple things. Number one, the beta amyloid 4240 test was obviously a very distinct way of testing to see, if things are changing. Now, I took that I took it in October the 13th. So I'm 10 months into taking my brain restore when I took that. So that reversed by 10%. That was huge. But the other thing I did, and I don't know if I have it up here. Yeah, I do. Okay, so what I did, and I tell all my people to go do this, go out, put this slowly. This camera is pretty good at focusing. Hopefully it's in the right direction. And this is a memory game for kids. Really simple. Match the animals, right? That's all you do. It's blatantly simple, okay? But it's not easy for someone that has Alzheimer's or dementia. That's a super challenge. Plus, with Parkinson's, they may shake or have tremors turning it over. So I said, go buy this $12 game from Amazon, okay? And when you get it, only give like 5 animal pairs. Don't get carried away. Don't pick the whole 120. No one's going to do that. Make it easy for the person. Have them turn over the cards, and try to see how they do. Each month, test again. If you're a caregiver, test them again. If you're a person with it, test yourself. You can play with yourself against this thing. That's not a problem. You don't need something. I challenge my wife. My wife's 15 years younger than me. She's sharp. Okay, she doesn't have any of these kind of problems and things like that. Constantly was correcting me, not so much anymore. But I said, let's play this game. She's like, no, I don't want to embarrass you. I'm going to beat you to death on that thing. You're not going to have a chance. And I said, let's play it with 36 pairs of animals. Okay, so I took on the big one, but I said, I feel really sharp. I mean, my brain is sharp, so I just want to be able to do that, I sat down with her, I played the game. Halfway through the game, she realizes I'm winning so bad. I'm nailing it left and right, remembering where all these things are. And at the end of the game, of course, I had a big stack of winning cards, and she didn't. She goes, I'm not playing anymore. That's it. I'm done. And she never played me since, which, you know, I'm completely happy with.
Okay, cool. What about a journal or some sort
Yeah.
of like self-tracking? And if so, what do you suggest people track?
On mybrainrestore.com, they can actually go up to the FAQ and pick free PDFs. There we
Okay.
do have some sort of spreadsheets where people can take those, pick the things that they, you know, that they have, the elements out of them that they have. And then if they have it bad, put a 10. If they don't have it, put a 0 or just leave it blank. Okay.
Mhm.
Just start from that point. These are going to be things so far we've noticed from everyone on the Parkinson side. On the Parkinson side, what we've noticed is people that said I could lift maybe my weights, you know, maybe 3 times and then I'm out of energy, I'm done. One of them now can lift 10 times. So that was strength. Others have said, beautiful story from a woman out in the West. She basically told me, she said, I always walk down a trail holding on to my husband's hand, and because I'll fall down that trail, but I love to go down that trail and see nature. And she said, after taking a product for 3 months, I let go of my husband's hand, and I walked down that trail by myself. And I was like, you know, your story warms my heart. She goes, and she was so funny. She, at one point, because of a mailing issue, she didn't get the product right away. She calls me up and says, can you air freight it out? Well, it's already gone. She goes, I don't care. I just air freight it to me. I need it. So it's stories like that that encourage me that we're seeing people turn these things around. You know, they're getting better with memory. I certainly would love to get it to some of the celebrities and stuff like that who have incredible problems. I wish my friend died of Parkinson's with dementia. And I just wasn't in any position to help him at that time. I had it too, and to watch somebody suffer through that, and the caregiver, you know, trying to take care of them was hard. But it taught me something. The product, and this is what it looks like from a label standpoint. Okay, so it's got our big made in the USA, which is made in the USA from overseas ingredients, but it looks like this. It's a powder.
Okay.
And the reason I did this, and it mixes in well with pudding and yogurt and things like that, is that caregivers have a problem. My friend had a problem. And if you gave him the wrong kind of food, he'd throw it right back at you. He wanted what he wanted. He didn't care about anything else. And he gets ornery. And so it's very hard for caregivers to deal with that. We made it a powder, so it mix in with yogurt or any flavor yogurt, applesauce, you know, smoothie, ice cream, anything cold. Heat destroys them. Okay, so it's very important they do that. That has worked out well and better than trying to do a capsule where they'd have to take a lot, because this is like 2 teaspoons a day, and you just stay on it in that way, and you know, realize it takes time. It took you time to get this bad. In Parkinson's, usually 50% of those cells are already damaged. But if there's anything I learned is that, and one of our persons taking this is a retired neurosurgeon. He said, if you, and he takes it. And I said, why do you take it? He goes, because the other stuff's junk. Dude, isn't that your job? He goes, was my job, excuse me. You know, and he takes it and he uses it, and he said, don't underestimate the brain. It has a great power to, bring itself back online. Yeah. And another thing we talked about was like insulin. Insulin, you can see a difference in that. I know when I learned about diabetes, it was, well, you don't get better. That's it. You're over. You got to take insulin for life. We've all heard this.
I know. Drives me crazy.
It drove me crazy too. I was kind of
infuriating.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. And then you realize, well, they weren't right. And I guess I put the same, analogy here to my brain restore and why I called it what I called it, because it restored my brain. But if that, in a human, if the pancreas isn't making those, insulin, not doing what it's supposed to do, and you can get it to redo it, which now we know you can, okay, then that's a miracle, number one. But number two, it also says scientists was wrong. okay, that we're doing it. And I think here we're in the same boat, a different day. We're taking these neurological diseases, and what this product is doing is going after the heart of what's doing it, the pancreas, but in this case, the glymphatic system, and saying, hey, get up and work, because you got to clear that material out of the brain and then it can help itself. Now that helps people doing like sound wave type therapies and things like that, because some people have been involved in that in Parkinson's to help clear those things. It makes sense, but if you can't get the garbage disposal to work, then where does it go? It's just going to stay in the brain and circle. It's got to get out. So I think we complement. A lot of people ask, is there anything I can't take it with? No, but I do tell people, talk to your doctor, tell them you're taking it. The reason being, just like with, I'll use Ozempic as an example here because more people are familiar with that. Ozempic turns back on those cells in the pancreas, okay? And so do other things that are natural, turn those cells back on. Well, you can't keep taking insulin. And it's the same here. If you keep taking L-Dopa on top of something your body now starts to produce, you're going to get the freeze effect and you're going to get things like that. So you have to look at how do you work with your doctor to back off it. In my case, January 1, I never took L-Dopa again, ever. I've never taken it through the entire 1 year period. I've been taking my brain restore. Yeah. And here I am.
I'm so excited and grateful that you're here, that we can talk about it. And also too, I'll just remind people also, ask your pharmacist, because your doctor might not know. I mean, we can't all know everything. And, depending on what practice you're going to for your primary care or your neurologic care, they could be really busy. And so, they might say, no, I haven't heard of it, and actually like blow you off and like not even look further into it. But if you can tell your pharmacist, and even if the pharmacist at that moment doesn't have time, they can put it in your profile and they can look it up when they do have time, and they can get back to you. And we have a lot of pharmacists now that are just beyond the retail environment. So they're ambulatory care, they're working in different clinics. Right. And so there is a lot of opportunity to have an interaction with a pharmacist to have that extra layer of clinical support that your physician might not be able to provide. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
I'll say two things about that. It was funny because my pharmacist, when I told him what I was doing, he says, well, can I buy that from you? And I'm like, you don't know how to figure out how to get it? He goes, no.
So like, it depends. And especially, if, unfortunately, if you're a licensed pharmacy, even if you're carrying supplements, depending on the rules and regulations and the FDA and your state laws and all those rules and regulations, you literally might not be quote unquote allowed to provide a product like that. Yeah. Again, another layer of infuriating.
No, I look at nursing homes and stuff like that, how much this would help. How much would this help? When you think about it, the people that are taking care of those patients, and there's one nurse to 10 patients. What if you could have some of those patients get 10 or 20% better and then be able to do small things on their own? What burden would that take off the nurse and the entire nursing home staff? To me, those are huge, but they don't want to talk about it. Because, is it FDA approved? Is it? No, it's not. It's Mark approved. Okay. It's everyone that's taking it approved, and soon we're already on Amazon, although our Amazon site does not look as pretty as I wanted to, but they've already had people come there and buy. I said, look at the 5 stars when they start coming in. Right now we just put it up there, so we don't have any, but I've already had people say, look, I'll go up and give you 5 stars. It works for me,
unfortunately, this is something else, another mantra that has been drilled into our head that, it must be FDA approved to be safe and effective, blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, now we know that that's BS, that those labels of safe and effective can be bought, with money from big pharma, that there don't have to be any studies to support anything, actually. And even if there are studies, again, like what's the bias, how high of quality of the studies are they actually? Probably not that good.
Right.
And so anyway, it's a flawed system, and we're all doing the best that we can in light of this, but don't prevent yourself from getting better by, number one, buying into all of these false stories and false mantras that we've been conditioned to. I think they overall have good intentions, but now we know that they're just not true. The body can make new cells as we're, for the longest time, we were all taught like, oh, once you're an adult, your body doesn't make any new cells unless they're like skin cells, but that's not true. Like the brain can regenerate itself. The pancreas can regenerate itself. You just have to give it the tools to do that. So, okay, that's my soapbox.
No. You hit the nail on the head. And that's why it took 6 months, finding out, would that work? I was willing to be the next mouse. Okay. I had no problem with doing that. And only when I got to that point and knew where I was, that I could say, okay, let me move forward and try to get other people involved in this and get going. And the thing is that each one of these jars, it takes 1,800 seeds. So it's an incredible amount of seeds because the seed is incredibly small. And it's, it just shows you that, I go back and I'm coming out with a book, and in there I talk about, the British. They sailed the ocean for 200 years. They lost 2 million sailors due to one disease called scurvy. And why? Because they didn't bring any vegetables or anything on the boat. They ate fish. They ate whatever they could catch, the occasional unfortunate seagull that landed on the boat. Whatever they could eat was meat for the most part, or salted. And 2 million, I couldn't believe the number when I looked up. 2 million of those people died before someone said, bring limes or lemons on the boat. And they did that. Everyone stopped dying. And that's why the UK, England, became called, limeys.
The limeys, yeah. But again, something so simple, we take for granted the role of vitamin C in the body. And, I think people too, like vitamin, the vernacular is the word vitamin, but really they're cofactors. And what does that word cofactor means? It means it is an element of a chemical reaction that is required to be there for the chemical reaction to be quote unquote successful or appropriate for the desired outcome. So if you don't have it, then you're not going to have all of these appropriate chemical reactions that are necessary for running a happy and healthy body.
Correct.
And, so I think that's important to keep in mind. Yes, the dose can be the cure or the poison, as we like to say in the pharmaceutical world, but that it doesn't mean that we shouldn't allow the gravity and the importance of these, what we consider to be little things, to actually be recognized. And so, anyway, so, okay, great. Let's talk more about your website and all of the fabulous resources that are there and how people can get their hands on the My Brain Restore product too.
Absolutely. It's mybrainrestore.com. So it's pretty easy to remember. We also are available on Amazon, but I'll give you our discount code is ebook10. So if you put in ebook and the number 10 at our website, when you check out, you actually get 10% off the order. You don't get that at Amazon. So it's a little cheaper to order through us. But the site also contains my journey. I wrote all about and showed pictures of my father, my mother, my birth certificate, all my medical records I put in there. I just as transparent as possible. So I encourage people to go up there and get that. They can also go to the FAQs, which there's an FAQ for health providers, which we get into the real science. I summarize the science there for your doctor to look up. Doesn't mean they will, but your doctor to look up and kind of have a chance to read it so they understand why are you taking this, because I think a lot of people get pushed out of it because their doctor says, oh no, just keep taking what I'm giving you. And so there's that. We do a lot with FAQ for the public, and then the book will be on Amazon in ebook form for a whole $3.95. I'm not trying to make a dime on that book. It is all about understanding my journey and people sharing with that journey, understanding what caregivers go through, and realize you may not be as stuck as you think you are with these three terrible neurological diseases that continue to get worse throughout the world.
Right.
And we just installed just this weekend worldwide delivery and put it in place because I'm getting calls from the UK, France, Australia, Canada, and Germany that all want to buy the product. And I'm like, I don't even have a way to, hold on, I'm not ready to ship overseas.
I love that when the universe is like showing you such strong signs that,
Yes.
And you're stepping up. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yep.
Thank you so much for stepping up. Thank you so much for being brave and courageous and willing to try something and then also tell people about it and really, perpetuate hope and again, reversing this mantra that there is no hope, that it is such a predetermined decline. So I'm so happy that that's not the case and that's not the truth.
No.
And I'm all about empowering people and patients. So I encourage, even if you're a practitioner listening to this today, go to that FAQ and start digging through it and digging through the research. Because I'm also all about like making up your own minds and again, reading the studies and dissecting them and seeing them for both their strengths and their weaknesses. That's so important. And because each individual person is unique and we need to be treating people, not numbers, so, as unique individuals. So again, thank you so much. And it is mybrainrestore.com. And there'll be a link on my show notes page, which is at drlaramay.com/podcast. That's where all the show notes live. And then again, if you type in ebook 10 when you order from the website, you'll get 10% off. That's correct?
That is correct. And most of the time, everybody gets a subscription because they want to stay in the program. But one thing we do, we put our phone number up there and we don't let any AI answer it. Either I answer or one of my helpers, and you always get a human.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, anything else before we finish up today?
No, I hope that I can reach out to some of your audience and that they can get involved, even if they're caregivers and everyone knows someone with one of these diseases. Don't let them stay with it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, brainrestore.com. And yes. Oh, sorry. Mybrainrestore.com. Mybrainrestore.com. I might need some myself. So thank you, everybody, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on Light Body Radio, where functional medicine meets intuitive healing and transformation happens on every level. If this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and if you're ready to go deeper, visit drlaramay.com to book a functional medicine consultation or an intuitive healing session. Whether you need to rebalance your body, clear your energetic blocks, or reconnect with your soul's purpose, I've got you. You can also follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Dr. Lara May for daily inspiration, energy updates, and healing tools. Remember, your healing is multidimensional, and so are you. Until next time, honor your body, trust your intuition, and activate your light.